Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up, and our general impressions of the thing. Obviously, this episode's a couple days late because we're doing it on Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, so we needed to basically give ourselves time to watch and do all the stuff. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is going on? Yeah, today going to be all about the new original Disney Plus film, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Why did we pick it? Because it looked like a lot of fun. When the first trailer for this came out, I was like, I'm very much in for this, and I will gladly readjust the production schedule of the show to try and do this and not have to wait a week to talk about it. So yeah, it was a fun one to hop into. Before we talk about it, though, a little bit of housekeeping. Upcoming episodes, we've got the next week will be kind of on the same schedule of a Sunday release rather than our usual Friday release, because the first two episodes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will be coming out next Friday. So we're going to talk about those on Sunday. And then I've got a couple potential things lined up, but I haven't really like consulted with anybody else on the team yet to see if they're interested in these things. One that we'll do for sure is going to be the debut of the Ms. Marvel series when that comes out. So stay tuned for that. But everything else a little bit up in the air. Hopefully, I will get that locked in for next week for y'all. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. History lesson, originally released obviously May 20th, 2022, has a runtime of about 1 hour and 38 minutes. In the Disney Plus original timeline of things, we had Cheaper by the Dozen, came out back in March with Zach Braff in the I was going to say the Steve Martin role, but even Steve Martin was like in the somebody else role when he did
hmm
that film originally. Better Nate Than Ever came out April 1st. Polar Bear was a like I think a Nat Geo thing. Came out April 22nd. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers here in May. Up next is Hollywood Stargirl coming June 3rd. Rise, June 24th, and Trevor the Musical, June 24th, which, of course, I got to talk about Trevor the Musical, despite not knowing anything about it, because it's called Trevor the Musical. As far as the roll call, the director, Kiva Schaffer, best known from his work with The Lonely Island. He's also directed films such as The Watch and Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. And then the writers for this film are the duo of Dan Gregor and Doug Mand, who were story editors and writers for How I Met Your Mother for many, many episodes. Most recently, they wrote Doolittle, so that wasn't great, as well as Magic Camp, which was like a early pandemic era Disney Plus original offering, I believe. But yeah, this was a lot better than Doolittle, I will say that. um, Starring, we have, of course, Andy Samberg as Dale, also, of course, notoriously from The Lonely Island, as well as Saturday Night Live, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the film Palm Springs, and most recently, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. John Mulaney in here as Chip, of course, best known as a stand-up comedian, but also from his time as a writer on SNL, his short-lived sitcom Mulaney. He was Peter Porker in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and he's also in the series Big Mouth. Kiki Lane playing the human sidekick Ellie from films like If Beale Street Could Talk, as well as The Old Guard and Coming to America. She will also be in The Old Guard 2 when that sequel eventually comes, presumably to Netflix. Will Arnett in here as the voice of Sweet Pete, of course, from Arrested Development, the Lego Movie, the Lego Batman movie, BoJack Horseman, Muppets Haunted Mansion, which we did last year, and again, very recently, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Tim Robinson in the role that I put into the doc last because I didn't want to risk spoiling it for anybody that was doing the show. despite the internet having zero chill about this role. Tim Robinson playing Ugly Sonic, of course, also from SNL, as well as the his own sitcom show, I Think You Should Leave.
Less of it's a sketch comedy show. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Sketch comedy. Sorry. Not sitcom.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just I think you got caught up on like John Mulaney's terrible sitcom. Like,
yes.
Absolute garbo sitcom.
Yeah.
And that's coming from me as I used to be a really big John Mulaney fan. Even I couldn't watch it. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he was very much just trying to do Seinfeld, but not in the era where Seinfeld was or would have been relevant as a new idea anymore. But yeah, it was basically the exact same framework. I remember watching like the first couple episodes, and I was like, no, I'm gonna pass. Eric Bana in here as Monterey Jack, of course.
That surprised me.
Right? Yeah.
I did not expect Eric Bana.
Yeah, he pops up in some weird places here and there. But of course, best known for his work on things like Hulk, Munich, and Star Trek. Dennis Haysbert playing the ironically voiced version of Zipper here. Probably best known to people these days as the Allstate insurance guy, but he's also in the Major League movies from the 80s and 90s, as well as Heat, and he was President Palmer in 24 in those early seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Tress MacNeille plays the high-pitched version of Chip that we get occasionally, as well as Gadget. She has been the voice of Chip in normal circumstances since 1989. She's also been the voice of Daisy Duck for Disney since 1999. And she's also notoriously the voice of Dot Warner of the Animaniacs, Babs Bunny of Tiny Toon Adventures, and she is a regular on the Simpsons and Futurama series, as well as a ton of other voice acting work, of course. Corey Burton plays the high-pitched Dale, as well as the high-pitched Zipper, which he has done for many, many years as well for the Disney side of things. He is also the voice of Captain Hook and Ludwig von Drake and others for Disney. He is Shockwave in the Transformers series. He's the voice of Brainiac in the DC animated universe, Zeus in the God of War games, and he is Count Dooku and Cad Bane in the Star Wars animated series, as well as Ansem the Wise and a whole bunch of Kingdom Hearts stuff.
That's what's up. Yeah, no, he's awesome. Corey Burton's fantastic. Tress MacNeille is like, they are two very legendary voice actors that I had no idea were
Chip and Dale.
We're Chip and Dale. Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah. And then we kind of have some fun little cameo things here that I wanted to highlight. Admittedly, also Tress MacNeille and Corey Burton are also cameos, but because of their lineage with Chip and Dale, I wanted to give them a little bit more of a spotlight. Seth Rogen in here as Bob the Warrior Viking, as well as his own little cameos as Pumbaa, Mantis, and Bob. Seth Rogen being from things like Freaks and Geeks, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, Monsters vs. Aliens, which is where Bob comes from, Kung Fu Panda, which is where Mantis comes from, The Lion King, of course, Pumbaa. And I was surprised that actually they didn't find a way to slide Alan the Alien in that scene as well, because that's where you can currently hear him in Invincible. J.K. Simmons in here as Captain Putty, of course, J. Jonah Jameson in a lot of the Spider-Man stuff. He's also in the film Juno, the game Portal 2. He's in the Legend of Korra series. Emmy or Oscar winner rather for Whiplash. He is also in Invincible, and just because it was fun that we've got Dennis Haysbert as the Allstate insurance guy, we have J.K. Simmons as the Farmers insurance guy from the TV ads and stuff. And then Keegan-Michael Key was the last one I pulled in here as Bjornson the Cheesemonger, of course, notoriously from Mad TV, Key and Peele, Toy Story 4, Jingle Jangle, the Netflix holiday movie from a couple years back, and I really enjoyed him in Schmigadoon on Apple TV Plus recently. I think that's the brunt of. There's probably like a few other cameos that will.
There's so many.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There's also like a Paul Rudd cameo and stuff like that. But yes, Paula Abdul in there. Yeah. This is the first, trivia section here. First Disney production since 1988, where Chip and Dale are being voiced by someone other than Tress MacNeille and Corey Burton, both of whom have voice roles as different characters. It's also the first time in which Chip and Dale are voiced by two separate male actors. Often one is voiced by a female and the other a male, and in some instances they have shared the same male or female voice actor. Briefly, the two were voiced by two actresses at the same time in the mid to late 1950s, Desi Flynn and Helen Silbert. Early in the film, Dale stars in his own show titled Double O Dale. In the early 90s, Disney was developing a show called Double O Duck. This idea was scrapped when it was discovered that the title Double O is owned by the estate of Ian Fleming, author of James Bond novels. Of course, I had to give that a shout out alongside our That Bond Show series that we've been doing. But also, Double O Duck was reworked and became Darkwing Duck. And then this one is just this was not included in the IMDb trivia, but I dug into it as I was looking up some other things. There is an episode of Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers called Double O Chipmunk, and it is basically, the premise is Dale gets obsessed with a TV spy show and starts to emulate that spy, and it's basically what they're pitching Double O Dale to be. But so they could get away with it for an episode title, but not for a proper show, apparently.
Well, you don't have to trademark an episode title. You
Yeah.
do have to trademark the title.
Yeah. Although Jim Cummings did not reprise his role of Monterey Jack in the film, he does star in the film by reprising his role as Fat Cat, alongside his roles as like the knockoff Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, as well as the voice of Pete when shown in the bootleg parody films that they're making. And he does the Darkwing Duck cameo at the end of the film as well. Some director and writer cameos. Akiva Schaffer is visibly seen as the Rescue Rangers like 80s sitcom director when he calls cut there, obviously also directing the proper thing. And then he's also a plethora of other characters in here. He's the voice of E.T., he's the sock puppet officer, he's Happy Cartoon Dog, Shoe Shiner, Mr. Natural, Hungry Mouse, Sonapig, Officer Chameleon, and Bird Husband. Dan Greger, one of the writers, is the Snoopy ear reporter who asks, "Hey Chip, why the Snoopy ear?" And Doug Mand is the cartoon FBI agent who tells Ellie, "Nice work on the case. The FBI could use someone like you." Lots of Easter eggs littered throughout this film, and I'm sure we'll talk about a handful more of them, but a few other ones that I wanted to just pop in here in the trivia are when Chip and Dale are driving down Hollywood Boulevard or wherever that is. You see a billboard for Waze the movie, based on the Waze app, as well as an advertisement for Johnny Bravo Fitness and Funny and Pork Chop, a law firm led by Doug Funny and his dog Pork Chop.
It was great.
We have
oh man,
scattered among the bootlegged parts, a Keyblade, as well as Sora's hair that I saw some people very upset about in our timelines and stuff. And I just loved, obviously so much of this movie gives homage to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So I love the idea that Sweet Pete, among his like torture tools, has a can of dip, a la Roger Rabbit. And then this last little IMDb trivia factoid that I pulled in here. There was a little entry for, this is the feature film debut of Sophie Fatou. And if you're like, who's Sophie Fatou? According to the credits, she's one of the girls in Chip and Dale's class. So shout out to her or her agent or whoever among that crew has an IMDb account and probably made that trivia point. And shout out to what I presume is also her family, as being like the 9 of 17 people who found that interesting. But yeah. So what did you think, Cam? What did you think of this one?
You know, I had a very awesome experience watching this because my brother-in-law has been like, so my sister is a vice principal at a high school. It was graduation week. So she has just been like out of the house for pretty much all day, leading into like pretty late at night. And so my brother-in-law has been doing like, you know, extra, doing extra hours with the kids. And he looked pretty like he had them do some outside chores, and he looked like he could take a break. So I said, "Hey, John, let me go ahead and do just like the movie night with the kids. I got to watch this movie anyway. Let's just do a movie night with the kids. I'll watch them while we watch this movie." And like we got some, so I did that. We got some popcorn, and they're like, "Uncle Cam, like, what is this movie we're about to watch?" And I was like, "Well, we're about to watch Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers." And they're like, "What is that?" And I realized, I'm like, how do I explain Chip and Dale as like a concept? Because like they're not aware of who Chip and Dale are. And
Mm-hmm.
like, but then on top of that, how do I explain what Rescue Rangers is? And then lucky enough, I didn't really have to, because they do it for you in the intro of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, do I have them watch like an episode before? But we didn't have enough time. So I watched it with my two nieces and my nephew. My nephew and younger niece were not like too into it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they thought it was fun. My oldest niece was way into it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really enraptured by, because this is the first time she's ever seen it in a movie, because she's never seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit or any of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time she saw human beings interacting with cartoons on
Okay.
that level. And it reminded me when I saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I had that same kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had this wonderful multi-generational moment watching a movie reboot of one of my favorite childhood afternoon, Disney afternoon shows. Because they ran Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers well into syndication for many, many years through the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something that like I really found myself super attached to. And just like had a blast. I just like I don't think it's like a quote unquote incredible movie, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And it knows what its source material is, and knows what it's working with, and it's just, hey, we're not here for a long time. It's only 90 minutes long. We're not here for like a deep time. Like we're not going to get some like deep dives into anything important or philosophical here. We're here for a good time, and we're here to have fun. And that's exactly what this film delivers on. So I had a blast. Like it was just so much fun. John Mulaney and yeah, I almost said Adam Sandberg, but that's not right at all. Andy Sandberg, absolutely knock it out of the park as Chip and Dale. The kind of like idea or message about friendship is good. I also really especially liked its commentary on kind of just like nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
and on just like the idea of legacy and the things about like what you leave behind. I found super interesting, as far as just like how they were just like, yeah, it's important to leave like important things behind for people. And like the things that you do in your past that are a big deal, you should like look back on them fondly and like not focus on the negative about them. And I'm like, man, I really appreciated that. I really appreciated just like the way they conveyed these kind of personalities of Chip and Dale in a modern day is great. Um, Chip just being like, he transitioned from acting to insurance sales, and he's like this extremely successful insurance salesman
Mm-hmm.
is great. Dale be running the con route, like doing that was awesome. And also I was really, really impressed and surprised by how much screen time they gave Ugly Sonic.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
yeah.
gosh.
We will definitely talk about Ugly Sonic. I love the Chip as insurance salesman as well. Because especially like I feel like I've watched a lot of those like here's what wrestlers from the 90s are doing today or something like that, and so many of them are like, oh, they got into like real estate or like and they're real estate agents or something like that, and it's like it's this weird thing of like a celebrity doing like a civilian job. And obviously there was like a big a big to do I think a couple years back of like somebody from the Cosby Show that was working at a Whole Foods now because that's what he does to pay the bills, and just these like the idea of celebrities taking on the more mundane or menial jobs, and it's a perfect fit for a character like Chip, as voiced here by John Mulaney, I think.
Yeah,
um
I think it also speaks a lot to the idea, and I liked how they normalized it. It's like, yeah, like acting doesn't last forever for some people. Like they don't,
yep.
like it's a matter of how long are you willing to kind of put up with kind of being treated like garbage. And like treated poorly by the industry. If you're not the hot commodity and hot ticket, like you just like I loved it. It's like Dale thought it was super important for him to take this phone call from his agent at the beginning of the movie. And then he gets a call from his agent and he takes it. And it's like, hey, you haven't talked to me in 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It totally makes sense. And I really enjoyed the fact that like Dale was there to like capture as much as he could. And it wasn't in a like shisty or like gross way of like trying to bank in on nostalgia or anything. It's just like, this was his dream to come here and do this. And he's just doing as much as he possibly can at this point. Also shout out to what was obviously like a male dancer like club thing
Yeah.
that like
Yeah,
obviously got put on the cutting room floor for what was originally probably a much more raunchy version of this movie.
yeah, presumably. I did, yeah, it took like a second watch to like they do enough to give you the idea, because he also like says, "Oh, I'm doing I'm doing a stage show tonight," or something like that. And they do enough to clearly say like, okay, these guys are like clearly dancers in a male review or something like that. And it wasn't until the second time I was watching that as they're leaving, you hear them kind of like under their breath scoff at when they bring in these guest performers, alluding to Dale and how bad they are or whatever. But yeah, it's like that I think is one of the film's great examples of like, this is clearly not for the kids who are watching, but it's also not like it doesn't alienate the kids who are watching, but the adults that are watching know exactly what they're seeing,
Oh yeah.
what Dale has done in the moments prior to this scene, in a fun way.
Yeah. Something I think that really captures it is like, this isn't what you consider a classic style family film.
Mhm.
Like, it's easy enough for kids to follow and enjoy. It has enough smart moments for adults to kind of get like an in on and a look through. And also like the things that it touches on are like, there are some seriously adult themes, like the idea of like, being going like the moment where like the Valley Gang or whatever it was called, the
Mhm.
like the and it was just like oh wow, this is serious. And like they're treating cheese like drugs, like
Yeah.
stinky cheese is like drugs. And it's like, it's great. It totally knows what it's doing with that. It is just it's done so well. And I
Mhm.
really, really appreciated the kind of like the not really leaps that they took, because it's such a niche property, so they could really like play around with it a lot. But something I really enjoyed was kind of like just talking about being like, yeah, like this friendly like side of things is not how it is. Like, this dude deals with like forgeries, human trafficking,
Mhm.
like stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
it gets pretty dark, and it's really good in the way that they handle that, in a way that like I especially love the underground cellar for the like the stinky cheese opium den
Yeah.
was gnarly. I loved the like, this is clearly supposed to be an opium den, but it's cheese, stinky cheese for rodents. And it's great. I love it. Also, just like I'm like, I really it's magnate, not magnet.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then he totally turns it into, it's like, oh, Dale's not stupid. He clearly heard somebody mispronounce magnate one time and thought to themselves, yeah, if you're an important business person, people are like drawn to you like a magnet. That makes sense. And here's the thing, because a lot of times I think that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have been in that situation before where or it's like when you've read something a million times, but you've never heard anybody pronounce it out loud.
Yep.
And so you say it out loud and somebody who knows that word stops you and goes, do you mean this?
Mhm.
That happened to me with chagrin.
Oh yeah.
Because I was saying like chagrin
Mhm.
or something like that. And it's like, you mean chagrin? And I was like, oh, I do mean chagrin. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've never heard anybody pronounce it out loud, but I've tried to incorporate it in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, I've been there 100%, but also, yeah, it's like, it's a thought process. Dale's not stupid. He just doesn't like Chip says at the beginning, you just didn't do the setup properly. Like, you
Mhm.
just didn't know how to set it up.
Yeah.
And just was great. Had a great time with it, man. The bootleg stuff is great. I loved it so much. And the idea of And like just like the number of cameos and Easter eggs that they were able to put in because of the entire bootleg situation was great. But Will Arnett as Sweet Pete, Peter Pan.
Yeah.
When they're like Sweet Pete, I was like, is it going to be like Pete from like Disney? Like, what's going on here? And then it turns out, no, Sweet Pete is a gross version of adult Peter Pan with like a ponytail, and is just like super. And it's like Will Arnett is voicing this. This is
Yeah.
like,
He'd been revealed in like the early trailers and stuff, but I even knowing that, I like until kind of starting to prepare the stuff for this, I'd forgotten that. Um and one of the one of the trivia things that I didn't pull in here was like the idea they were like it was a trivia thing that was like Will Arnett has done or had done this with Robin Williams, and I was like, why are you like linking those two together? And it was like, oh, because he's playing Peter Pan in this and Robin Williams played Peter Pan and Hook. Okay, got it.
yep.
Um or specifically an old version of Peter Pan. But
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, it was just
obviously
the puberty scene was so good.
yeah. I very much loved this movie. I watched it basically like when it came out, like when it hit midnight. I stayed up Thursday night and watched it, and I was glad I did because yeah, like that morning seeing everybody like posting Ugly Sonic, I was like, that was one of the funnest reveals in the movie. And then like yeah, the as you said, the amount of time that they spent with Ugly Sonic, I was like, I love that they made this work. This is a very true spiritual successor to Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the like the deals, the wheeling and dealing that had to happen to make all those crossovers. Because yeah, Disney has like enough of these things under their belt that it could have just been like Disney cameos and Fox cameos and stuff like that. But the fact that you do see people from all across the spectrum, that you see that you see Ugly Sonic from Sega, and you see
the way they focus on his teeth.
Yeah.
The moments where they focus on the teeth in slow motion, it's like, it's gross. My nieces and nephew didn't understand Ugly Sonic because like they're not on Twitter, obviously.
Yeah.
And they weren't on Twitter years ago when Ugly Sonic was a thing. And so like they didn't understand. They're just like, oh, Sonic's in the movie. It's like kind of.
Yeah. But yeah, like making him such a character off of that meme and like just immediately him like owning it and being like, they can't laugh at me if I'm in on the joke was a great little bit. And I loved it. Yeah, we kept coming back to him. It was like, this is well worth the payoff. That like might have only been made better if it had also been voiced by Ben Schwartz, but I also have no problem with Tim Robinson coming in and being like the ugly version of Sonic.
Tim Robbins is perfect for this. He's absolutely perfect for this. If Ben Schwartz would have come in, you would have expected him to basically just do the Sonic thing, but like Tim Robbins is so good at doing this absurdist level of comedy. Like he's so good at it, and I really, really enjoy his stuff. And Tim Robbins just absolutely nailed this role. Was absolutely perfect for it, and I especially love the back and forth where Dale calls him on his BS, and it's just like, you don't really have a show going on. Yeah, I do. No, you don't. And on top of that, like, you know, and basically like calls him out for other stuff, and he goes, "What? No." And then as they're running away, he goes, "You'll see. I'm gonna be huge." And Dale's like, "No, you won't." And it's like.
And no, turns out he did have an in with the FBI.
Yeah, he had an in with the FBI and was like, and by the way, shout out to Please Be Excited out there on Twitter for creating a poster for Ugly Sonic Uglier Crimes.
Oh, I've not seen that. Okay.
Nice. It's glorious. It's so good. Massive shout out to him. It's just such a Ugly Sonic was such a thing for like such a like finite period of time. And having it be revived here as like a cameo is just fantastic. It's so well done. Also, I love the way that like they call out the red herring about their companion the entire movie. And Chip's like, well, I guess I'll let it go. And you're like, okay, she's clearly gonna be the bad guy. And then it turns out, nope, it is just like all the cop movies. It is the captain, played by J.K. Simmons, who's just fantastic. Just such an underrated performance in this film.
As a Gumby knockoff who gets basically a Terminator 2, you know, fight scene / death scene at the end. Yeah. Gosh. Like they're just, there is absolutely just a ton of fun. Like this well, I think it also they made it, in a way that will play for kids and play for people that,
Hmm.
even if they don't have like the knowledge of the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Like this is very clearly, it seems, a movie made for like my generation, your generation, that like grew up with Chip and Dale. And yeah, Chip and Dale isn't something I've thought about, significantly a ton recently, but I watched a ton of it growing up. And I played the NES game growing up and stuff like that. And especially off of the recent DuckTales reboot, that, like when they would kind of introduce the larger Disney Afternoon universe, including the Rescue Rangers into that, it was like, oh, that'll be really cool if they end up doing like a new Rescue Rangers spin-off thing. And then instead we end up getting this. I'm like, this was also very cool. I have no notes. But yeah, like so much fun in this, because it is like it's tying into that, but it's like you don't need to remember, you don't need to remember the dynamics between everybody. They give you everything you need to know about Monterey Jack, about Gadget, about Zipper,
Hmm.
about Chip and Dale. They give you all that in like the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then the rest of it is just, okay, let's have fun with this idea of bringing these characters back. Let's play with this idea of like Dale has gotten a CGI enhancement surgery kind of thing, and is doing the con circuit, the festival circuit, stuff like that. um and yeah, let's see what that like look at nostalgia looks like, while also doing all the things we loved about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the mystery component, the like the animation mashup, all that stuff. Like when it was just, oh, like it's just toons exist in this world alongside humans, have their own kind of toon things, be it like toon sized houses or
Hmm.
whatnot, go to school, like, desegregated schools for toons and humans. And then yeah, just seeing like all these toon actors in Hollywood having built up their businesses post their heyday and stuff, in these like fun little background things. And then just also weird random gags like Paul Rudd for an Aunt Man cameo. Or like obviously I loved all of the like Uncanny Valley stuff, where it's
Oh
like
my gosh, yeah.
it's that animation style from the 2000s where like nothing really looked right, and oh no, he's got Polar Express eyes. Just so much like fun and joy and gags to be had there.
I'm
And then
looking
yeah,
right
you get
at
like,
you, pointing to his eyes that are
yeah.
just like staring up front, and then like bringing his fingers down to look at them, and it's just it's stellar. It's stellar on so many levels. I do want to say like the Gadget and Zipper thing,
Hmm.
like where it's like I was like Zipper like flirts with Gadget at the beginning of the movie, and
Yep.
I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That probably won't go anywhere, or it'll be like Zipper's like been longing for her for a long time. It's like, nope, they got married and had 42 fly mouse children,
Yep.
and they're horrified.
Yep.
All of them are horrified, and it's fantastic.
But it's a family of love, and Zipper's so happy to be a stay-at-home dad.
I
um
find it so fulfilling.
yeah. And Gadget being like, oh, I guess my character from the show is just like my character in real life. Like, admittedly Gadget painted a little thin here in the movie, but at least
Yeah.
she owns it.
Well,
um
so is Monterey Jack. Like
yeah.
like, and it's not like they had like deep characters in the show either.
Right.
So
Yeah. But yeah, just so much fun across there. I did not necessarily or I didn't pull it in for the trivia, but I did do some like fact checking in the in Dale's like garage, when they kind of show like, here are all the episodes and stuff like that. Like a lot of the like all the episode names exist and are like real things. Some of them are like were actual like VHS, like,
mhm.
2-in-1
Yeah.
kind of VHS kind of things. Like you'll see like Undercover Critters, and that was Adventures in Squirrel Sitting and Three Men and a Booby as the episodes, or and stuff like that. A lot of the ones where it's like Le Perfect Crime season 2 episode 26,
Mhm.
it's like, well, their numbering conventions drastically differ from the ones that you'll see on IMDb, but they did seem to be in sequence, because there was like a series that was like what is it, Gorilla My Dreams, they have listed as season 3 episode 1, and then the SS Drainpipe season 3 episode 2, and Puffed Rangers season 3 episode 4, and those are like sequentially in there, but like a couple of them are like listed as season 2 episodes and stuff like that. It's all, especially because like it was syndicated daytime TV, all of the episodes basically aired just day after day. It's not like a
Mm-hmm.
week between episodes back then. So it's like, okay, these ones aired, May 19th, May 20th, May 21st, and suddenly there's like a season break, but it's May 22nd is the next episode or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's weird. But I also wanted to give a shout out, that not only do you see the NES game like in cartridge form, but it's also playing like in demo mode on the CRT TV
Mm-hmm.
behind them. And in non Rescue Rangers related stuff, Dale has a Luxo lamp a la Pixar. So wanted to give that a shout out. Um, in the two things that like aren't actual Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers references, the one we see at the beginning, the Fat Cat attack that they're filming as like the season finale, that was not actually an episode. That just tied into the end of this movie. And then at one point, when they do the diving through lasers and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and reference it as the Mission Chip Possible episode, that was not also that was not an episode, because that sequence from Mission
Yeah.
Impossible would not come out for another handful of years.
Yep.
So it was a little anachronistic. But everything else, like When You Fish Upon a Star, which is the one that Ellie highlights as like that's the clue that she's giving, that was a very real episode. And so yeah, just a lot of fun little cameos and Easter eggs, and just like clearly some very deep hardcore love for them. Any other favorite moments or anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
I think one of my favorite moments is I was so confused about what they were going to do with the Snoopy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what are they going to do with the Snoopy? Or it's just like flailing around. It's super like weird and annoying. And it just gets cut off.
Yep.
And then he like does the cartoon thing of like blowing on his thumb and it
Yep.
pops back up. And it's like perfect.
Yep.
Like the moment that happened, I was like, yes.
Yeah. That was just
This is
another in a long list of like, just like they would have done it in a Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie.
Yep. And I will say that this film does such a great job. Also, I didn't realize it until you said it, like in a desegregated school. It's like, oh wait, Roger Rabbit takes place during a time of segregation between toons and real people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, huh, that is a wild and cool kind of like idea that like this is in a way like a spiritual, but also like chronological successor to Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, this could take place in the same world, because who shows up as a cameo?
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit.
Yep. He's there partying
like,
with the Three Little Pigs, the Rescue Rangers, and a real life Paula Abdul and her buddy Scat Cat. This is like, I saw that obviously in the trailers, Paula Abdul and Scat Cat. And I just like, from that point is probably what like sold me originally, because 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, opposites attract was, I've talked about on podcasts before. When I was young, me and my sister and my aunt and grandmother would go up to like a guest ranch out in the White Mountains out here in Arizona every year for like a week. And out there away from technology and stuff, there was a rec room that me and my sister would usually like go up to and play, pool, ping pong. They had like a couple of arcade games, and they had a jukebox. And I have probably put tens, if not hundreds of dollars into that jukebox, playing things like Opposites Attract and Mbop and a handful of other like just like miscellaneous songs of that era, because that's what this jukebox in a very poorly attended at this point in time dude ranch in the in the mid 90s had going for it. But Opposites Attract was absolutely one of the ones that we would just like play on repeat, as like we would put in, $5 worth of quarters and pick 30 songs or whatever, and we would pick that one, 7 times, because it was one of the ones we knew and could recognize and stuff like that. So them popping up was a ton of fun. Also, later on in the film, Paula Abdul also cameos as the 3D reporter,
Hmm.
which is another just fun little visual gag that they, obviously throw in there. So shout out to her. But yeah, like, so there are clearly people partying at that party with Roger Rabbit, with the Rangers. So yeah, it was a more open time here in in the 80s and 90s of Hollywood post Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I guess. Um,
Well, which is great. I just love that idea. Like that idea had not occurred to me until you mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like that's cool. It's super cool, and it's just like there's so many cameos and homages and Easter eggs to animation as an art form in general, and they just do such an amazing job with it. And really, I like honestly the entire movie is such a highlight for me. It was just so much fun, and honestly, like yeah, I get my niece like seeing. There's a part where they're at the Russian bath, which also just like shout out to them, be like they're at the Russian bath.
yep,
Like oh no.
yep,
Um, and my niece, like, there was a moment where like a cartoon big tough guy is walking past a real life big tough guy,
yeah,
and like the cartoon big tough guy is the one that moves around the other guy.
hmm
And I remember seeing that, and it was done so like cool and cleanly. And my only thought was like, that was really like that's really something. Like I know that technology it makes it like different than the way they used to have to cell shade film strips. Like I get that, but there's something really, really, really cool about the way that like this world just exists in a like cool suspended like the suspension of disbelief and the reality of it is just really, really cool. And I can't emphasize enough how much I really appreciated that they did take this kind of like Hollywood-esque like lens to look at a show like Rescue Rangers.
hmm
It was really cool. I really, really enjoyed it.
yeah, very much like has those like vibes of you know, um, like almost a behind the music kind of thing from like that VH1 era of like here's the opening of this. We're going to give you like the history of Chip and Dale, the actors who you probably know better as the Rescue Rangers. And then we're going to just go from there and create this fun little journey for those characters. But yeah, I think like even like when it gets set up and the idea of like bootlegging and then like when Pete like kind of owns it and is like, yeah, Disney didn't want to have anything to do with me once I started growing up and getting mustache, hair or whatever, but I realized I could like there was still an audience out there and I could make that movie again, just knock off to avoid the parody laws and stuff like that, and then just doing that with all of the other versions, the Beauty and the Beast knockoff, the Little Mermaid knockoff, all those things. At the end you get like um Winnie the Pooh and the Stampsons, I think is the Simpsons
Mm-hmm.
knockoff, um and Prince Hajim or something like that for the Aladdin, which is like that's the weird one where it's like, well, that's just Pete, who is another just well-known Disney character who is clearly just like he's not really in a bootleg form. He's just game to do whatever whatever other Pete is down for. But yeah, like I love that the the his inner circle features like what is presumably like the Coca-Cola polar bear,
Mm-hmm.
and a early 2000s era Lord of the Rings dwarf,
Mm-hmm.
a la Seth Rogen. um but then you also have a Muppet, just a straight up parody of the Swedish Chef, um as Bjornson
The
here,
cheese
the cheese
the
the
cheesemonger.
cheesemonger, yeah. um uh yeah, I it's just such a fun little like innovative thing. One of the things that I will say that surprised me was how, and obviously it's like playing into the to a joke, a specific joke, but how like just unapologetically bad Chippendale's rap is.
Oh, so bad.
Be
And like they own it at the beginning when he goes, "Oh, of course chipmunks are rapping."
Yeah, yeah.
Like Alvin and the Chipmunks are rapping, and it's like, of course they're rapping, and like he's so like can't stand it because it's terrible. And he goes, like, of course they're rapping, and it's terrible. And then later they rap, and it's terrible.
Hmm. The thing that surprised me of that though was knowing Lonely Island's lineage for just like bangers of comedy music, and obviously also prior to this, pop star Stop Never Stopping. Like I was surprised that, and it kind of does like when they come together, but it's like still never a good rap.
No,
But
it's
I
never
was
a
I
good
was
rap.
surprised we didn't get any like really strong musical number for them. I will say I did appreciate the end like tag of, oh yeah, and we'll reboot it and we'll do the theme. We'll get a pop star to do the theme that like nobody's gonna, like nobody wants to hear a serious version of the theme. We just want to hear like the original, and then it cuts into the pop star version of the theme. Did you catch who is doing that version?
It was Post Malone, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. A Post Malone version of the Rescue Rangers theme.
It slapped. It was good.
Yeah.
Like the Rescue Rangers theme has always slapped, and
Mhm.
I stand by that. Like
It was also like I was amazed at how often they used it throughout as like just an undercurrent to the score
mhm,
without being like overpowering or whatever, but it was like you would hear kind of the just the like doom doom doom
mhm.
doom um uh
When
and
they're just like chilling in the car and
yeah,
it's like in the background. Yeah, no, it's awesome.
yeah, they did a really good job kind of like incorporating it throughout the rest of the movie. I'm not typically the person, like I'm definitely no Tim Geddes when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I was like I really appreciated how they used it in this movie. Um because I was constantly like just wanting to hear Chip and Dale.
Dale,
Uh
Rescue Rangers.
yeah.
It's the chit 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 chit.
Yeah.
That's you're like, I want to hear that. I want to hear that man stutter the chip
Yeah.
over and over again. Like here's the thing, Trevor. Today, as I was making my lunch, I was heating up some pasta and white sauce. As I was heating it up, I was like whispering to myself, "Chip chip 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 and Dale, rescue." Like I was doing the whole song. Like it was great. I like it's such a banger of a theme. It's underrated. Chip and Dale as like a property has I've always felt was like pretty underrated. People talk about like, oh, remember the like Saturday afternoon cartoons? They're like, yeah, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck. It's like, but nobody's talking about Chip and Dale Rescue
Yeah,
Rangers.
nobody talks
And
about
that
Chip and
was
Dale Rescue Rangers. Nobody talks about Tailspin, and I love that. Like even that, like that got a little reference of like Baloo was in there in the in the Disney Afternoon collection with us, and then he got
mhm,
his big break with the Jungle Book reboot, and it can happen as quickly as that. It's like
yep.
nice.
I loved all of that, but like part of me like really appreciated and loved the like the Darkwing Duck at the end when
Hmm.
he's like, I'm like, oh, this is they're like they knew there would be enough like really annoying people on Twitter saying why isn't there a Darkwing Duck reboot, because that's always what happens when anybody ever mentions anything about like you know uh this I want to say like Sunday or Saturday afternoon, but it's the Disney afternoon block.
Yeah.
Um like yeah, they're like, yeah, we want a reboot of Darkwing Duck, and it always shows up. It's always popping off whenever anybody brings it up. They're like, why don't they do it? It could be cool.
Hmm.
And I love that they totally play with that because Darkwing Duck is there at the end, and
Yep.
he's just like, boo them. Like, oh, it should be like you should do Darkwing Duck,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh my gosh, perfect.
Yeah. And that's
Also
another one
shout
that
out
I
to
think got
Dale.
some
Yeah,
good love in the DuckTales reboot as well. Like they did some
yeah.
really cool stuff with incorporating Darkwing Duck in there. But yeah.
Also, shout out to Dale being like, it's like I said earlier, he's like, he's not really shisty about it. It's like, yeah, a little bit, because at the beginning he's literally using Baloo's, like they're like
Hmm.
hyping up Baloo coming out and acting like it's supposed to be him coming out
Yeah.
for that. And
Very
it's
convenient that they were like, you know him from Disney Afternoon. um, when it's like, realistically, no, you know him from the Jungle Book. Like, you don't remember that he was also in Tailspin. But yeah, the Dale is definitely like a little kind of skeevy bit of a guy. Even it like he's clearly also been trying to sell Gadget and Zipper on his independent movies. um so yeah. Lots of fun
Although
there.
I love their, hey, we're not going to give you money. Like,
Hmm.
you have to stop asking. It's like, no, I'm not here for that. It's
Yeah.
like awesome. Also, he's also a little skeevy when he's like trying to hit on the detective,
Hmm.
and Chip calls him out for being, when he goes like, hey there, and it's like he like
Gross.
looks at him and
Don't be
goes,
gross.
gross. Don't
Yeah.
be gross.
Yeah.
Like, perfect. Like, yes, great commentary on like like people like using their fans like that and just being like, don't be gross.
Yeah.
And it's
Of the teased movies in there, which one would you want to watch most? Fast and Furious Babies,
that, yeah.
Mr. Doubtfire with Meryl Streep, or E.T.
Oh,
versus Batman that we get like the one scene of?
Mr. Doubtfire. I think Mr. Doubtfire.
Meryl Streep. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just another secure Oscar for for Meryl Streep. Just give her
100%.
another Oscar for that. Yeah, there's just so much like so much fun and joy and love and yeah, it's another one of those movies of just like it's constantly throwing things at the screen for you to be like, "Oh, look, it's that thing in the background."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care. I'm here for it. And it's like it never felt like invasive for the movie. In fact, like I went and sought out a post after the fact that's basically like 150 Easter eggs you may have missed. And I'm like, well, I saw most of these, but some of them I did completely like I didn't see that the Doug Funny and Pork Chop one the first couple times I watched it. But yeah. Um obviously like yeah, it's just there's just a ton of fun to be had throughout. Um and yeah, shout out to all of the miscellaneous companies basically signing off and saying, "Yeah, you can go ahead and use this character, fine." We're cool with that. Most notably, of course, Ugly Sonic because it's obviously also just such a like slap in the face of everything else. Um one last little uh or two last little jokes I want to give a shout out to I appreciated. One was the like uh you're gonna like the way you look, I guarantee it. You'll never get
Mm-hmm.
away with it. The Men's Warehouse reference, I think I will.
I think I
I
will.
was
That's
like,
such a great
yes,
run.
perfect. And then also I want to give a shout out to the last little cameo I saw. Well, two last little cameos I saw. One in like the final sequence thing, or not even cameo, but Easter egg. In the final sequence, it's happening down at the docks, specifically by the Nine Men Boat Shop, which is a nod to Disney's Nine Old Men, kind of
Mm-hmm.
some of the pioneers of the early eras of animation. And then I want to give a shout out to Akiva Schaffer's directed by credits at the end of the like the first thing that pops up after
Mm-hmm.
the movie that get bootlegged themselves. I caught that the A turns into the Indiana Jones A. The S obviously becomes Star Wars. The R becomes the Avatar R from Avatar
Mm-hmm.
James Cameron, not Avatar Last Airbender. But they also did something with the eye, and I couldn't tell what that one was supposed to be. So if anybody knows what the eye was supposed to be, what like that font treatment was, let me know, because that's gonna bug me. But yeah, just a ton of fun throughout. So much like joy. Oh, also shout out to since we did give him a nod, the snake, his cameo. That's
Mm-hmm.
Flula Borg, YouTuber that I don't know from YouTube at all, but I've known him. All right, I like when he shows up in like Pitch Perfect 2 or when he was in the Suicide Squad. I was like, oh, okay, it's that guy that everybody's like, he's a YouTuber, and I'm like, I don't know, I've never seen him on YouTube, but okay, cool. So yeah, shout out to him getting to play the DJ Herzogausen or whatever, the snake. Um, any any last thoughts before we go ahead and give it a grade, Cam?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well then, yeah, let's dive into the report card where we grade from A plus to F. What do you want to give Chippendale Rescue Rangers 2022?
I think that this is, like I said, this is not a spectacular film. It's not gonna like change your life. It's not gonna create so many waves. It like it's a solid B for me. Like this is it's above average. It totally nails what it's trying to do, and like it is what it is. I don't think this is gonna be like a classic that I go back to and watch, but it's definitely like I could definitely see myself throwing this on in the background or just like being like I'm bored. I'll throw this on. It'll be fun. Or like another movie night with Uncle Cam, where it's like, hey, let's go ahead and watch this fun movie. Any of those would be great, but I do think that it's like I give out so many A's on this show, and there's nothing wrong with giving out A's, but I do want to start reserving A's for something that's a little bit above and beyond. Um, and this is just above.
Okay.
So
I do not have any qualms giving this an A. I had a silly smile on my face the entire time. This was such a fun, joyous little hour and a half. And like, this is something I can very easily see myself like deciding I'm going to do a Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Chippendale double feature, down the line. Just be like, yeah, I'm just going to throw that on in the background while I'm doing other stuff or something like that. Because I think there's just a lot of fun to be had in this film. And yeah, it was just a good old time. I had a blast watching this one, so it gets an A from me, no problem there. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. I laughed even when I saw this list of like the other things they're suggesting. Obviously, Chippendale Rescue Rangers the series, which you can go watch all 65 episodes. Also, shout out to they timed this the day the trailer went live was also the day that the Chippendale series was like made available on Blu-ray. So it's just like they just had like good cohesive marketing around Chippendale going for this one. In addition to Rescue Rangers, you can also watch the Chippendale Park Life series. You can watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Jungle Book live action in quotes, The Lion King in quotes live action. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Shout out to Ralph getting a little cameo there as one of his arms, as well as his like, I'm gonna wreck stuff after Pete gets bootlegged at the end. Darkwing Duck and Alvin and the Chipmunks. So you can go check out all those things. Extracurriculars, you watching anything else on Disney Plus these days, Cam?
I'm watching some Rebels.
Okay. Yep. I am as well. Been just enjoying after we talked about that a week or two ago. Last week I guess. I've just been enjoying hopping in and watching some more Rebels. So shout out to that. Any reason in particular you're diving into Rebels, or is it just because you and I talked about it last week?
Oh no, so I wasn't able to make it last week.
Right, but you and I talked about it when we did
yes
that Nerdy Site show. Not on the show, but we talked about it just outside of that.
Yep, that's why I was watching it to get ready for that that D Plus show, and like I couldn't make it to that D Plus show, and instead I ended up just like doing this or just kept watching it.
Cool.
So
all right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about Chippendale Rescue Rangers here. You can follow Cam at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, want to give a massive shout out to That Bond Show. I know we don't have much longer with it. It is in the Daniel Craig era, which is the latest era of Bond. So I know it's going to be making its way out after, over the next couple months, and wish, it's been a fun series to have. It's been fun seeing you dive into those movies. I know I've talked about it before, but just go ahead and check out That Bond Show on youtube.com/thatnerdysite. It's great. It's fun. You guys just did Casino Royale with Jarrett Green. So I'm stoked. I haven't listened to that episode yet, but I have it queued up ready to go in a tab on YouTube. Right.
Excellent. So. I hope you enjoy. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will echo that shout out. Yeah. It's we've already recorded the Quantum of Solace episode for next week. So there's only one more movie I've not seen, and that's going to be the Spectre one when that comes up. But I like this weekend I get to sit down and watch Skyfall. I'm like, that's just going to be another good time. So excellent.
That's a good time.
So yeah, that one is almost done. And I will also give a shout out to Friday Night Dying Light that Cameron does. That is still ongoing. You can get new episodes of that every Friday on youtube.com/thatnerdysite as he continues playing through the story campaign of Dying Light 2. And I will also give a shout out to, we did a little something different last week for our Tuesday, Thursday videos, which are typically our That Nerdy Site Plays series. I sat down and did unboxings of blind boxes of the Lego Muppets minifigs, basically trying to get a whole set. Did I get a whole set? You'll have to watch the videos to find out. But they are. I will say this, you can watch me slowly devolve into madness over the course of about 40 minutes if you want to watch those two videos. So yeah, go check that out. You can follow all of us and all the latest from us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Once again, next week will be obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, episodes 1 and 2, and it'll be similar to this week on a bit of a delayed schedule, so we can, give ourselves time to watch it on that Friday rather than try and do okay, the episodes are out Thursday night, midnight. Let's watch them and then sit down and record and have the episode ready to go live. That's not feasible when some of us have day jobs and stuff. So just stay tuned for that. That'll probably go up Sunday, just like this episode has. But yeah, thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.